Morning, everyone. Hope you're well. Um, this is Tina Gaja, and if you have just joined me, thank you so much for joining me. I'm Tina Gaja. I'm the paper quilling artist, and this is the second video that we're doing the tutorial on quilling for beginners, or an introduction to quilling for beginners. And we really do hope that you enjoy it. So, for those of you that don't know me, I haven't always been a quilling artist. I've only been doing my quilling for about just over 2.5 years now. And prior to that, I used to be in a corporate role. Well, many years of my life I've spent doing that. But after having my baby number two, I became an artist, and that was quite by fluke. But if you want to hear more about my journey, go ahead and watch the first tutorial that I carried out 2 days ago, which is on this channel. Without taking too much more of the time in just talking, so without taking too much more time about talking and whatnot, I'm going to go ahead and start recapping on what we covered in the first tutorial. So in the first tutorial, if we just go ahead and move this camera down, I'll show you what we covered. So in the first tutorial, I showed you how to do a tight swirl. There we go. How to do a very tight coil. And this is done by using a slotted tool and a strip that you put inside the slotted tool, and you roll it by holding the strip with your thumb and your finger, guiding it, making sure that it's actually going through carefully and beautifully. Once you've done that, you get to the end of the strip, to that final turn, tighten it so it doesn't look loose. This is what you'll see, and use your thumb to remove it off the quilling tool. And you can either use this strip as a tight coil and put some glue on it. I like to use my cone glue, hold it in place just for a second or two, and there's your tight coil ready. Now you'll find that maybe the edge is not very soft or smooth, and the way to smooth the edge is by just using the same tool, and you just roll it over. You get a nice, gorgeous edge on here. Just realised battery on this is draining, so I've just requested my helper to go and get the charger. Here we go. So that's the tight coil. The other thing that you can do that we covered on Monday is making a loose coil. So loose coil, you do the same process. You curl the strip, roll it, roll it, roll it all the way to the end. When you get to the end of the strip, you curl it, do that tight twist, remove it off there, and using your gauge, you place it in one of the gauges, as you can see, nice and gently, and leave it for a second or two as it releases the tension you've created whilst you were rolling on the quilling tool. Using your curved tweezers, hold and remove the coil off the gauge, and here we have a loose coil. Now you can either glue the coil right there, or you can just let it loose and let it just take its own little shape. And when it's done that, it will release a little bit more. Have a gorgeous, lovely loose coil. And the one that I made before, I'll show you. Depending on how tight you've curled and the type of paper that you have, it'll either be a very, very loose coil, or it'll go into something like this. Again, it really depends on the kind of paper that you've used. The paper that I'm using here is simple plain paper that you can use for printing on, or photocopying and whatnot, you can get these papers from any art store, any stationery store. The other shape that I showed you, so now we have 2 tight coils, 2 loose coils, and one of the other coils I wanted to show you was if you were to curl it, after removing it from the gauge, what it would look like if you were to glue it immediately. So I've got 2 viewers watching me right now, guys. Thank you so much for joining me. If you've just joined me, drop me a line and say hello. I'd love to know how many of you have been so interested in what I do. Just place the coil in the gauge, and there we have a really lovely coil. I'm going to use my curved tweezers, remove it from there, and this time around I'm going to glue it, because I don't want it to be any other shape than what I've determined as being 10 millimeters. And once you do that, what you might find is, because of the tension that you've created on there, I'll show you like this. Maybe that makes a bit more sense, because a lot of the viewers said that they couldn't see properly what I was showing them. So what you'll find is that the outside edge will become a little bit thicker because it's got a lot more curls around it, and then the center will have this beautiful spiral going through it. So I actually like this shape, and there's so much that you can do with this shape. You can leave the shape as is, or you can create an eye or a teardrop, or a marquise, or even a curved marquise. Now, going on to that, let me show you what a teardrop looks like. So this is literally just a recap. This is a teardrop. I showed you this in my last tutorial. Can you see how my tweezers are my best friend? So that's your teardrop. And this is done by using a simple strip of paper, which I'll show you right now. Once again, this is literally just for a recap. And once I've recapped these 5 shapes that I showed you on Monday, we'll move on to doing some lovely scrolls. I'm going to place the coil in here, let it loosen for a second or two, remove it with my tweezers, glue it. And what I like to do is, so that the glued edge doesn't become visible anywhere else, I like to pinch it exactly where my seam, for want of a better word, is. And here I go ahead and pinch it one time, and I create a teardrop, or a petal, I like to call it. There we go. I really do hope that you can see that better. Guys, if the lighting is good, please do drop me a line so that we can adjust it. Obviously, I don't do this often. In fact, this is the second YouTube tutorial that I'm doing. So that's your teardrop. Now, one of the things that you can do with a teardrop is actually change that shape into a paisley. And the way you change that teardrop into a paisley is using your thumb and your finger, pinch the end and just curl it up. Slightly curl it up, as you can see. And there, from a teardrop, you have a paisley. Let me just place it on here. This is tricky. There we go. There's your paisley. And I love what you can do with just simple shapes. The next shape I want to show you, we practiced on Monday. Oh, that's right. Some of the viewers mentioned that what happens if we don't have the tools or the strips. What I've done is, if you go on my website, which is www.visuart.com, and you go under the resource tab, you'll find a template that I've created that you can go ahead and print and start cutting the strips into 5mm, 5mm, 7mm, and 10mm or 1 centimeter strips. It's a It's a free resource that you've got available, and you don't need to go out and buy any strips. You can go ahead and just download it and print it off. So here I've gone and put the coil into a 12 millimeter page. I'm going to pick that up, and this time around what we're doing is we're actually creating an eye or a marquise. I'm going to glue that up, and once that's done, using my tweezers with the glued end at the top, I'm going to hold it together. Here we go. I'm going to hold it together so everything is centralized, and I'm going to pinch it on one end, hold it in place, and then pinch it on the other end. And there you have an eye shape. Here we go. I hope you're able to see that a bit better. And what we can do now with the eye shape is actually create a curved marquise. And the way you do that is by taking one end and the other end, holding it with your thumb and your finger. You curve it slightly, bringing it to the center, but you curve it opposite direction. So here, what you have now is a curved marquise or a curved eye shape. Here we go. Can you see that a bit better? Is that good? Excellent. So these are the shapes that we covered on Monday. You guys enjoy that? Drop me a line and let me know how you're finding it so far. Today, I'm going to show you some of the scrolls or scrolls. And scrolls are beautiful. They're just so versatile. You can do so much with the scrolls. There are great fillers. They can be made into various shapes as well if you're scrolling. And let me show you some of the examples of the scrolls that I've used in my designs that I've created. Sri, would you mind just passing me the pens from over there? For the scrolls, all you really need, so here, what you'll see is an S, and the entire S is made up of different colored scrolls that I've put in, which are loose scrolls. Just there we go. Can you see that properly? Perfect. That's how I've used the scrolls, and I'm going to show you how to make that. So what you need for making a scroll is a strip of paper, and just tilt this so you can see it properly. Take a strip of paper, and with your curling tool, which is a slotted tool, you go ahead and you curl the edge. You don't go all the way to the end. Okay, so I want to create a loose scroll. I'm going to leave it with a bit of excess strip at the end. I'm going to tighten that scroll just a little bit as I've curled it. And now I'm going to let it loose. And once I let it loose, you'll see that it's actually taken this shape. Because I gave it a bit of a tug at the end, it's given me a gorgeous, tight, and even spiral in the middle. And this, I can just leave it at that with my curling tool. We'll just go in, holding the strip, just put that underneath the strip and raise it slightly to give it a little bit more curvature. So here we have a beautifully curled spiral. Okay, I can go ahead and snip that and leave it at that. There we go. And you can have loads and loads of these spirals that you can use on any of your art pieces. Okay. Next shape I'm going to show you is a C spiral, which is pretty much the same process. Take a strip, and this time around I'm just going to cut this into half. And the C spiral is basically having a spiral on either end, almost like a C. This time round, I'm going to do the same thing as we've done the practice dip. Halfway, tug a little, remove it. Go on the opposite end of the strip, do the same thing. Tug a little, remove it, and using your tool, you just curl that very gently. And there you have a C spiral or a C scroll. You can do many things. These are great gap fillers. You can go ahead and use this and just open it out slightly if you wanted to. You see that how I'm just shaping it up. If you've got too much, shape it up into a nice wider C scroll. Here we go. And that's your C scroll or C spiral done. Now I'm going to show you an S scroll. And as the term indicates, it's shaped in an S. So this was a C spiral or C scroll. This is an S scroll. So you start off with curling it, curling your strip halfway, just shy of halfway. Tug it slightly, remove it, and turn your strip over. And in the opposite direction, you curl a little more. Going all the way to halfway, tug a little, remove it using your thumb. And there, as I do that, just open it out slightly. Make it a loose S scroll. Oopsie. There we go. That's your S scroll done. I hope you guys are enjoying it. Do say hello? Okay, that's your S scroll done. The next one in terms of scrolls that I'm going to show you using some strips is a heart scroll. And it's easy. Don't really need much imagination there. I'm going to cut this strip into half. This time around, in fact, I'm going to make it slightly smaller. I'm going to take that strip. I'm going to fold it in half this time. So equal right there. Fold the strip in half. So you have a little crease. And now you should have like a V shape. Using your slotted tool, you'll put the slotted tool, making sure this part of your strip is facing up. And holding your slotted tool and the strip, you go towards where your crease is, the crease of the strip. Leaving a little bit excess, I hope you can see that, leaving a little bit excess at the bottom. Release your coil and leave it at that. Turning your strip over, do the same process. Hold the strip and your curling tool, curl the strip, not all the way to the end, but just a little shy of the end. And this time round, just give it a tiny tug and remove it using your thumb. You can just shape it up as you fancy. And there, oops, you're doing this, you have your heart scroll or your heart spiral. You might have seen this shape in some of my pieces that I've created. There's nothing difficult about making these hearts. They're just so cute. You can use them in so many different shapes and so many different art creations. I love doing that. They're so, so, so cute. Did I say they were cute? Of course they're cute. And if you wanted to add a little bit more cuteness to it, what you can do is where you've got the crease at the bottom, using your thumb and your finger, just give it a slight kink, like we did for the paisley, like we did for the curved marquise. Give it a slight kink. And there you have a gorgeously cute, whoopsie, gorgeously cute heart. Perfect. Now, I think we've covered, and we've got the opposite one, which is the R scroll. R scroll is the same principle as the heart scroll. This one. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this a little shorter again. Same principle as before. Fold it in half. And this time round, when you're curling it, make sure the excess is at the bottom. If you remember when we did the heart, we had the excess at the top like so. This time around, have the excess at the bottom and you're curling it outwards. So put your slotted tool on in the strip, curl it, not all the way to the crease, but shy of the crease. Remove it using your thumb, turn it over, and follow the same process again of curling, release after a tiny tug, and this time around it should look like a ram symbol. I think that's an Aries symbol. Yeah, Aries. There we go. So we have an R scroll or a V scroll even. Okay. Again, what you can do here is you can give it a little curl using your thumb and your finger. Give it a tiny little kink. And you can actually use this as a V letter if you're quilling any letters or any words. So there's your R scroll or a V scroll. Perfect. And now for the ornate scroll. How did you find it so far? I hope you're enjoying it. Thank you for the likes and thank you for joining. So we've covered the loose spiral or a loose scroll. We've covered the C scroll. Here we go, the C scroll. You see that? Perfect. We've done the S scroll. And we've done the heart spiral. Are you able to see that better? We've done the R scroll, or even a V scroll for that matter. There we go. And now I'm going to show you an ornate scroll. An ornate scroll requires multiple strips, and I will show you where I've used an ornate scroll before. Here we go. So a lot of you have seen this piece before, the mum one. And the ornate scroll I've actually used here. You can see, I don't know how well you can see it, but I've used multiple strips and then it curls underneath. So I'm going to show you how to do that. Okay. In this one, I've used different shades of pink, but for teaching purposes, I'll use different colors so you see how it works. And I'm going to take a pink. I'm going to tilt this over again so you can see exactly what I'm doing. This one is a little fiddly, so please bear with me. I'll walk you through it as much as I can. So pink. These are all ready-made strips. These are not the strips that I've actually made at home. A bit of orange. And a yellow. Sorry. And a red. So we're going to use 5 strips to create an ornate scroll. Like I said, it is a little fiddly, so please do bear with me. Starting with pink, I'm going to put a tad bit of glue here, and I'm going to attach the first strip, which is the purple. Then I'm going to put a little bit more glue on the purple and use yellow over that. A bit more glue on the yellow. I'm going to snip the end of this because there seems to be a bit of glue on here from the manufacturer, but that's okay. Put orange over that. and then a little blue for the last one. I'm going to put red over it. Okay, so for this, you can do it in two ways. Sorry, that's my little one coming through. You can either use a straight tweezers, pointy tweezers, to hold it and curl it. But I actually like to use a wide slotted tool. Can you see that? It's not got the same thin slot as this one. It's got slightly wider one, so it's able to take a few more strips than before. I'm going to hold it in the same manner as before with the other strips. Hold it in place. Because it's thicker, you've got to have a little bit more control over this. Slip, as I said, a little bit more control. And use pressure whilst you're holding those strips. Curl it all the way through. Yeah, like I said, it is a bit messy, it's a bit tedious, but it comes out absolutely gorgeous. You can see that just with a few curls, I've been able to make a really wide coil right there. And with the same principle as before, use your thumb to remove the whole coil off your quilling tool. Right. Put the quilling tool to one side. There we go. It's okay if you've got excess because you can always trim that off. Now, as I release it, I can either leave it like this as a gorgeously large spiral, or one strip at a time, I'll tug at it whilst holding the rest of them. What's the best way of showing you? I'll tug at it. I use my hair as a contrast. Helps to have long hair. At the red, I'm now going to tug at the yellow while still holding all the strips together. And now I'm going to tug at the purple. I can see that the red is not playing ball with me, so I'm going to put it back up a little. And there we have an ornate scroll. There we go. Can you see that? Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to snip it all off. What was that? There's your ornate scroll. Back on again. Can you see that? Yeah. If it's shaky too much, there we go. You can use my hair as contrast. And this time, what you can do is use a bit of glue to just glue the middles together so you don't lose that coiled shape that you just created. And I'm just putting glue in between each of the strips that I have so that it holds it in place. And then I can do something else on the other side of the strip. I rarely use this method because it's so fiddly, but it actually gives such a good result. Now, as I have this scroll ready, what I can do is on the opposite direction, I can curl it and it looks great. Here we go. Can you see that? I'm going to give it a tight little tug to this. And there we have a beautiful, beautiful scroll. You can use this in so many ways. Here we go. I hope you're enjoying watching this. Thank you so much for all the comments and so many likes. I really appreciate that. Here we go. So, how did you like all those scrolls? I hope they've been interesting. I hope you've enjoyed it. Now I'm going to show you. Actually, no, before I show you, I'm going to ask you, what is it that you found interesting so far? Scroll? this roll. Did you know that you could do so much with these kind of simple strips of paper? So many things you can do. And this is what really fascinates me about quilling, that although they're just simple strips of paper, they're so versatile and you can do so much with it. I mean, the creations that I've come up with, it's obviously not my own. I didn't design the art form, but it's just great what you can do with it, all the different shapes. I mean, on Monday when I did that, I showed you the petals or the teardrops and how we were able to create just a real quick card that you can give to somebody, a gift tag that you can put on a gift bag. And I even showed you what you can do with simple shapes, which is basically putting all the different shapes together to create something as beautiful as this. Yeah. And one of the things I didn't show you was this. I love doing this, and these tools are different to the ones that I've showed you, but I'll show you this in the next tutorial that I carry out on Tuesday next week, because it's Monday and I think it's bank holiday. So the next tutorial is going to be Tuesday next week, where I'll show you how to do these kind of shapes and a little bit more. Now, we've been on here for about half an hour, and I wanted to real quickly show you, like I promised on Monday, how to make a real quick duck. And the duck, or a chick, Easter chick, I'll show you using simple strips and a curling coach. A curling coach looks like a human being, but it's actually pretty cool. So in a curling coach, what you have is gauges of how large you want your coils to be. You also have sizes, so you can place your coils through this to make sure you've got the correct size spirals that you've created, similar to this kind of a gauge that we used before, but we use the curling coach to create the chick. To create the chick, what we'll need are a few strips of paper, really long strips of paper. Sorry about the shakiness. What I'll do is I'll take some yellow for that. Might need lots of yellow, 3 strips of yellow off of this. And I'm going to trim the edges, because what happens is when you buy the strips online and they're glued together on the edges, you don't normally get a nice clean edge. So I like to just trim the edge so I don't have any lumpiness going on. I'm going to take the second strip and I'm going to glue that together to make it into a longer strip. Okay, so that's a long strip. I'm going to trim this edge again, put a bit more glue on it. And stick it together. So now, instead of having like a 40 centimeter strip, I now have over a meter long strip. Here we go. And curling coach is great when you're curling a really tight coil. Like I showed you, using one strip, we were able to do a tight coil like this. With multiple strips, imagine how much bigger the coil will be. So I'm going to use this, my curling coach, my strip, but quilling tool inside the curling coach, and as I would normally, place my strip inside the quilling tool, and I'm going to use that as my gauge. And I'll keep going and I'll keep going until it comes to an end. And you can see it's actually growing in size. We've only really just I've now come to the end of one strip. I keep going. It's continuous and it's cute. It's tidy. And I think I want the chick's tummy to be a tad bigger. Without losing much pressure on here, I'm just going to attach one more strip to it. And this is the beauty about having a curling coach when you're working with it, because you can actually hold it in place and it doesn't unravel and it's not fiddly. So my tool is still there, my curling coach is there, my coil is there, and I can just keep adding to it. Okay. I will put some glue on the edge of this strip using the curling coach and my thumb in one place. I'm going to glue that together. And as I remove it, as I did before, use your thumb to remove it off your quilling tool. And before, when I mentioned, if it's not a smooth edge, which you might find this is not, I'm just going to use my tool to even it out nicely. Almost like making chapatis. And then when I showed you the tool on Monday, I showed you this awl tool or a needle tool. You'll find that when you're working with a curling tool or a quilling tool, you'll have these little lines on here because it's holding the strip in place. With this needle tool, I'll just place the needle tool inside of my coil and I'll turn it. And I'll do the same thing on the other end. And now I have a nice clean center with no strips of folding inwards. Yeah, and this is where my OCD and perfectionism comes into play. I don't like having little bits hanging around in the middle. Okay, and what I'll do now is use this as its head. I'm going to use this, and what I did earlier on is I printed off some paper, some card. It just says Happy Easter on it, and on here I'm going to make a little chick or a ducky. I'm going to use this, put some glue on it. Not a lot. Because it's so dense, I don't need to use a lot of glue, and I don't need to use the spread out glue that I showed you last week. I'm just going to place that right in the middle. And then this loose coil that we created earlier on, I have my glue. I'll show you that. My helper is busy today. She's not here passing me stuff like she did on Monday. What I'm doing is I'm actually spreading out the glue on my plate that I showed you earlier on, and using my tweezers, I'm just going to dab the shape inside the glue and pull it out. Be very careful. If you've got excess glue on your plate, what will happen is your coil will actually just stick to it, and when you take it out, it will just completely distort, and all the work that you've done in creating the coil will go to waste. So I'm just going to place this small coil on top of the bigger coil that we've created, and this acts as the head and body of the chick that we're creating. Then I'm going to take a little bit of red, small strip of red, and I'm going to make a really small teardrop. Where's my tool? Very small teardrop, using the red to make its beak. Curl it up. And this time I'm not going to use my gauge. So just using my fingers, I'll let it loose a little. And I'll frantically look for my glue again. Hold it nice and tight so that it's held in place. And using the same method as making the teardrop earlier on, you pinch the edge slightly. So now you have a very tiny teardrop. And I'm going to use that to make the beak of the little chick. Dab that into glue and put that on the face. Now the proportions may be a little bit off because I've not really worked on things like this before. But there's your beak. Oh, there we go. Beak stuck on. Now what we're going to do is take some yellow and create its little quiffy things on its head. So where's my yellow gone? Take some yellow strip, small strips, you don't need much. And this time we're going to do, remember the loose coil or loose scroll that I mentioned earlier on? Curl it a couple of times, let it go, and snip it. Use your glue. Maybe I've got too big. Little quiff at the top. I'll do that one more time. Small strip of yellow. Slot it. Couple of curls. Let it go. Snip it off. Very small. Oops. Can be quite fiddly. Did I ever mention that to you? This is a really fiddly technique. So, woof. And I'm going to put another little quiffy thing at the top. There we go. It's a teeny tiny little chick getting ready. I hope you're enjoying this. I'm going to take some more red strip, and this time around I'm going to create an eye for its legs. So, small strip, make 2 of them. And using my tool, curl it nicely. This time around I will use my gauge because I don't want it to be too big. I'm going to place it in a 8mm gauge. Perfect. It's releasing. Hold it together. Stick it in place. And remember what I said, you pinch both ends. And there we have a very teeny tiny little leg going on. And I'll stick it underneath. And I'll create the second one. That one. I hope you're enjoying this. How many of you are watching me right now? Wow, quite a few of you. Thank you so much for joining me. I will soon be putting on a lot of tutorials, downloadable resource on my website. So do check it out. And you can just go ahead and download it and start practicing or playing around at home with your kids or just for yourself really, because there will be some stuff that I'll be putting on which will be for adults. So there we go. I've created the second eye right there. I'll put that into the glue and place it right next to the first leg that I've created. Stuck down. So far, little chick is looking good. The only thing it's missing is its wings and eyes. So for the wings, what I will do is remember this that we created? It's paisley. I'm going to use the same shape. So using my strip, I'll remind you how I did this. Using my strip, curl it all the way. Over time, your speed really increases. You place it into the 10mm slot. Let it loose. Loosen up its tension. Take it out. Glue it up. Hold it in place for a second or two because the glue does need a little time to stick together. And I'm going to create that teardrop, if you remember, just pinching one end. Create that teardrop. And once the teardrop is done, what we're going to do is, oh, this is where my OCD is going to kick in. So I've got them, right, there we go. I like to have them both in the same direction. So we're going to use our thumb and we're going to curl it slightly, give it a bit of kink to create that paisley. Okay? And Now, which way am I going to make? This way. So making sure that the point is facing downwards. Dip your glue in, or dip your shape into the glue and stick your little chick's wings down. There we go. And there we have a little chick. I apologize if this is not perfect, but this was a real quick tutorial to show you how quickly we can make something so cute and give it. So the only thing the dude is missing now is the eyes. What am I going to use for the eyes? I have some crystals. Like I said the other day, I love using my crystals. A little bit of link. So I have some black stick-on crystals. I'm going to use that. Tweezers are your best friend. So there's your one eye in place. And then the second eye, we're going to place that on here. Oops. There. And there you have your little chick. Wow. I hope you guys have enjoyed that, as I've just enjoyed showing it all to you. So that's your little Easter card done. Real simple, real easy, but there's just so much more that I'd like to show you to get you to that kind of level. So keep joining me. Subscribe to the channel. And whenever I go ahead and put new videos on, because it's not just live tutorials that I'll be doing, every so often I'll be putting on new tutorials which will not be live streamed, but they'll be available as videos that you can refer to at a later date, or things that, you know, maybe questions that you have, oh, how do I do this, or how do I do that, or how does Tina do this? And I'll be putting on these kind of videos. So if you have something specific that you'd like to learn from me, some questions that you'd like answered, some techniques that you'd like to learn, which I haven't covered in the tutorial, do drop me a message and say, and let me know that you'd like to learn something, and I'll put together a quick tutorial for you to refer to. And of course, it's going to help other people as well, people who think that they could learn something different. So share this YouTube channel with everyone, anyone who thinks is creative, anyone who wants to do something different, something relaxing, that will benefit from this kind of a technique or this kind of an art form. So feel free to share it with your friends, your family, and I do hope to reignite the passion that a lot of people had, you know, when they were kids. I know there are so many people that have come up to me whenever I've done exhibitions, whenever I've done art fairs, and they see me with my products on display saying, oh my God, I remember doing this when I was in school. I remember doing this when I was in school. And of course, these people are a lot older now, and they're like, wow, we haven't seen this for so many years, and certainly not in this sort of format. So I want to try and reignite people's passion, things that they used to do in their childhood. And I want them to bring that childhood back and enjoy life as it is right now, in the condition that we're in. So feel free to share, subscribe to the channel. If you want more information, go onto my website and go ahead and subscribe to the newsletters, because every so often I'll be sharing a lot of free material and news and products on there. So feel free to do that. My website is www.virtuart.com, and of course you found me on this channel, so go ahead and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. Oh, that's right, later on today we'll be airing another video to show you various other different types of cards that you can make for Easter. Of course, Easter is this weekend, and I thought I was going to do a tutorial on Friday, not realizing Friday is actually a bank holiday. So I'm going to just record a couple of videos so you can create some more cards. watch out for those uploads and go ahead and follow that. I may even just do a sneaky live tomorrow to show you a bit more. But my next tutorial to show you some more techniques and tools will be on Tuesday next week. Thank you so much for joining, and I love you all, and have a safe day, have a safe weekend, enjoy your time. Bye bye now.